Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ice Time, where we dive into some big ideas around the NHL. I'm Mike Fink, and I'm joined by Alex Chauvancy, who covers the Devils and NHL at large for NJD on the Rush and Hockey Writers, a regular on Ice Time. Alex, how are you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and I've got Trevor Neufeld, who's been on also in the past, covers Calgary Flames and NHL as well. Just a whole bunch of stuff out west, so it's good. We got an East Coast guy and a West Coast person here for a big idea. Trevor, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Yeah, it's a big episode, a little longer than usual. So there's only a few games left in the season, if you could believe that. Four, five, give or
Yeah.
take. Not much left, if you could believe that. Playoffs are around the corner. So this is a good time to actually do an awards show. And we'll pick a few awards. We'll make our picks, our predictions, or what we think who we think should win the awards. I don't think any of us have a vote. So if we did, this is what our ballots would look like. So I guess without wasting any time, let's just dive right in. Let's start with the award. I think I want to start with the awards that have less debate, or I think we're all going to be in agreement on first. I think that's how it's going to work, and then we'll get to the awards where there might be some pushback or some splitting hairs here, based on how the awards work out. Let's start with the Calder voting, and I think this is one that I think we all wanted to squint and look at some of the big names, but I think we're all in agreement here. I'll start with you, Trevor. Do you have a surprise name out there, or are you going to vote for pretty much the leader on most people's boards for the Calder Trophy Rookie of the Year generational talent person who's going to
Yeah,
win that?
it's a powerhouse here for Calder nominees, but yeah, Schaefer just running away with it. He's just changing the game. So yeah, I'm going Schaefer.
Yeah, he's the generational talent defenseman. It's a pleasant surprise that we didn't overhype a defenseman coming into the draft as the
Yeah.
next great number one defenseman, the next Cale Makar, or the next version of Cale Makar, and he ended up becoming uh, that version where he has all the offensive skill and then some. Alex, you would probably agree. I mean, maybe you could surprise me a bit, but I think you agree. Matthew Schaefer, Rookie of the Year, Calder Trophy winner here.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if it's close to unanimous that he's the Calder Trophy winner. I think Ivan Davidov is probably second, but there's quite the gap between the two of them. That's just how good Schaefer has been.
I've wanted to squint and say maybe it was going to be Ivan Demidov or maybe Beckett Seneca. There's some
Yeah,
good rookies in this draft, but at the end of the day, yeah, Matthew Schaefer is just running away with this. It's really been that great of a season for him. 18 years old, rookie defenseman to have this season. We're all going Schaefer. Let's not spend any more time than we need to. Next one is one that I think is a little tricky because I think I know who we're going to pick, but I'm not sure. Alex, who are you picking for the Vezina Trophy?
I this has changed for me a little bit in the last couple of weeks. I thought Ilya Sorokin was going to be the runaway for it, but the Islanders have kind of fallen off a little bit here these last couple of weeks, and Jeremy Swayman has been just as good as Sorokin over in Boston. He's a big reason why the Bruins are going to get into the playoffs. I think you could have made a case for Logan Thompson too, but the Capitals don't look like they're going to make the playoffs at this point, and he's kind of slid back a little bit in the last couple of weeks too. So I think right now for me, I probably may lean slightly towards Jeremy Swayman.
Jeremy Swim is an interesting one. I actually have a different pick, so maybe you probably could figure out who mine is. But this is it's interesting because Swayman, yeah, without him, the Bruins aren't in the playoffs, and it looks like they are heading towards the playoffs right now. So, interesting pick there. I can't disagree with it per se, as much as I have someone else who I have. As someone else who I have in the back of my head who I'm like, yeah, I would vote for him. Trevor, who do you have for this?
Is he frozen?
Oh, is he? Yeah, is he?
Sorry, guys, my internet just went insane.
Yeah.
All right, Trevor. Yeah, Vesna. Who do you got?
Vasilevsky is my pick. Yeah, he's been unreal yet again. So I was going Vasilevsky.
I was also gonna. It's funny because you're not cut off there, but I have Vasilevsky too. I probably should have just jumped in and said I've got Vasilevsky while you get your internet back. But anyway, I digress. Which is I have Vasilevsky here, and I think it's interesting because stats aside, because off the top of my head, there's some goaltenders who might have better stats that suggest that they should win it, but you have to weigh all these things. And I think the Vezina is interesting because You have people who look at the basic stats like goals against average, save percentage, goals saved above average, which interestingly, Scott Wedgwood leads the league in those categories. But then there's
Yeah.
people who say, okay, is he do you want to vote for someone who's splitting starts or isn't the primary starter, isn't that workhorse in net? In which case, you have to vote for Sorokin, just the value, or Swayman, the value that they've brought to their teams. And I mean, you can look at some other teams that have been carried by goaltending. You look at the Flyers with Dan Vladar and how where would they be without him? And you look at some teams that they're in the playoff discussion really because of Logan Thompson. Where would the Capitals be without Logan Thompson? It's there's that discussion, and then there's the other narrative. And I think the interesting thing is a lot of the GMs vote on this award, and they're going to look at wins and save percentage, and they're going to see Vasilevsky at the top for both. And the Lightning are one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. They might end up with the best record in the Eastern Conference at the end of the day. So it looks like it's going to be his award to win. This one's tough. The next one's tough because I actually go back and forth on this myself. So I don't know who I'm voting for the next award. So I wonder what you guys think about this. Trevor, we're going to talk about the Norris Trophy, which I think is fun because there's so many names that are in tier. I call it tier two, where you can make a case for them being in the Norris, winning the Norris Trophy. There's a lot of tier two,
Absolutely.
and then there's those top two or three that you're really splitting hairs on. You're like, I want to vote for this one. I want to vote for that one. And it really might come down to the wire. So, Trevor, I'm giving you some time to think on this one by rambling a bit. But
Yeah.
who do you got?
Okay. So I was thinking about this morning. I think my head says Werenski. It's got to be that. But my heart's saying Darlene. I just feel like I don't know. It's less tangible, but I guess if I had to go with it, I'd say Werenski and just betray myself a little bit.
The Darlene's case is also interesting because if you're doing a narrative, if it's a narrative based a vote, if you're voting based on narrative, you could say why are the Sabres this good? And it is not
Yeah.
coincidental that is when Darlene returned to the lineup and started playing at a high level because to be frank, he was not playing at a high level to start the season, understandably so. And once he came back and then that team picked up, he's one of those defensemen. I actually don't have him on my vote, but I have him at that tier two where I'm like, I could talk myself into voting for Darlene. Alex, who do you have?
Yeah, I think I would probably go with Zach Werenski as well. But this is the hardest award for me because I was listening to the Hockey PDO cast, I don't know, like a week ago or something like that. And they were saying pretty much the same thing, how there's 7 or 8 defensemen who are really in the running for the Norris Trophy this year. Like you could make a case for Darlene. Moritz Seider has a very, very good case for it as well, even though the Red Wings have fallen off a cliff here the last month and a half or so. Quinn Hughes has been terrific with Minnesota. I know the first couple of months with Vancouver did not go that well, but you can't deny what he's done in Minnesota. Cale Makar is always a candidate for it as well. I think Lane Hudson is even in that second tier of defensemen that you could consider for it as well. So I would go with Werenski. He was pretty close to winning it last year, if I remember correctly. But you could convince me on like 5 other defensemen who have a legit shot at it. It's that competitive this year.
Yeah, Werenski was, I think, second in voting, and he had a great case. That last year was a three-player race. It was Quinn Hughes, Zach Werenski, and Cale Makar, and eventually Cale Makar just pulled away at the end just enough, where just overall he had the best all-around season. And yeah, it's true. You're mentioning all these defensemen like Lane Hudson. You can even throw Matthew Schaefer in there. You could throw Darlene. There's a lot of these tier two defensemen who are sort of in that
Sorry,
mix
guys.
that what's the name? That what was I thinking? That there's a lot of these tier two defensemen are in the mix. Like even Jake Sanderson before he got hurt. You have Quinn Hughes, I think, is in that. He's the top tier defenseman, but maybe he's in that tier below this season. You have Cale Makar in the top tier. I think right now it's Cale Makar and Zach Werenski for me. I'd like to throw in Evan Bouchard as a lightning rod to pick because
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Eighty-eight
it's
points.
interesting. I think if he got to 100 points, he could have really made the
Yeah.
case. He's at 88 right now
Totally.
with like 5 games to go. So
You could do it.
he's close. He has over 20 goals. He's one of those questions of okay, what kind of voter are you? He's literally
Yes.
splits. He splits votes where it's half
Absolutely.
half the crowd thinks he's a best defenseman in the NHL type of player, and the other half is like he's not a defenseman, he's a forward. Don't even vote for it. He's not in
Yes.
my top 10. But
He
my top
wins.
two.
He wins the best offensive, but yeah, that's not an award. So
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because it's the best all around defenseman. So that's why I was like, yeah, I can't. I'm putting Bouchard in that second tier. It's Werenski and
yeah,
Makar for me, and I would lean Werenski this year as much as Makar's having another great season. Werenski, you talk about getting if the Blue Jackets get to the playoffs, he has that going for them, and just overall the impact that he had. And last year he came close, so you have a lot of voters will say that they'll vote for him this year. It's interesting Alex mentioned Moritz Seider because I think he actually
yeah,
would be. I'll jump ahead on this and make up an award. I call it the Jacob Slavin Award, and I think he wins my Jacob Slavin Award this year. I'll just put in my vote there, which is the best stay-at-home defenseman. If you were because we always have this debate, oh, we should have an award for the best stay-at-home defenseman. We have a Selke trophy. Why don't we have a
totally.
defensive defenseman trophy? Why do we have the defensemen win every year based on offense or based on skill? So let's make up an award and call it the Jacob Slavin Award. My vote's for Moritz Seider. Trevor, I'll turn it over to you first, I guess. Who's your Jacob Slavin? There is no award for this, but this just gives us a good excuse to talk about the best defensive defenseman in the NHL. Who's your pick?
Totally. So I have a legit pick and then another one where I kind of have a guy that I wish I could vote for. But my pick was JJ Moser. I think he's just sticks to the meat and potatoes of it. He runs a lot of how Tampa goes. But I really wanted to kind of give a bit of a nod to Jonathan Aspero on Boston. He's 26, he's a rookie, and his numbers have been really good in terms of being a defensive defenseman. He's got 1.8 goals against per 60. That's well against the average or even some of the better guys. So I wanted to give him a nod. He couldn't even make Calgary's roster last year, and now he's on the first pairing in Boston. And yeah, just very under the radar defensive defenseman.
Boston has a few of those guys. It's kind of interesting you
Yeah,
mentioned him because I was like thinking they've got Nikita Zadorov, Charlie McAvoy. They've got a few good defensemen who could really lock down and shut things down. Alex, I'm sure you have a
yeah,
bunch of names that are coming to mind as I was mentioning that in the past, yeah, it would have been Jacob Slavin or even Gustav Forsling, but now you look at it and you're
yeah.
wondering, like, who could it be? Moritz Seider, interestingly enough, leads the league in defensive point shares, one of those stats
Oh,
that I like to throw out there. So I'm like, yeah, that's a good reason to vote for him.
nice.
But Alex, who do you have as your vote, or maybe a few names you could throw out there?
Yeah, in first place, I would have someone who's probably a little bit off the board in SL Lindell. I don't think people realize how good a
Nice.
season he's having for Dallas. If you go on hockey stat cards, he leads defenseman in defensive net rating this season. And then I would have Sider and Jake Sanderson as two or three. I think you could interchange two or three in the defensive defenseman award. They've both been really great this year. But I think Essa Lindell, and there was a point in Lindell's career where he didn't look like he was going to really amount to much anything, but he's quietly become one of the best defensive defensemen in the NHL. And with Thomas Harley kind of struggling this season too, he's picked up a lot of the slack in Dallas. He's going to be key for them in the playoffs for sure, and he would be my best defensive defenseman for the 2025-26 season.
He's one of those defensemen
Beauty.
who's also quietly put together a good season where he's quite not just a good season, a good career because he's the second or third best defenseman on that team, or usually seen as that. But Thomas Harley usually and Mira Heiskanen taking so much attention there that all of a sudden you realize, oh wait, that's Lindell's there. He's actually been a pretty good defenseman over the few years. One name I'll actually just throw out there is another pick I would have had is Brock Faber, which is a lot of people. Well, he's one of those defensemen that I think a lot of people look at him and they're like, this. He doesn't stand out. He doesn't pop off when you watch games. It doesn't stand out per se. Where you're like looking at him, you're like, that's Brock Faber on the ice, and like you have to watch out for him and he doesn't have those crazy offensive stats, but those underlying like the value he brings on the ice, where it's like the defensive value he has. And I think you kind of saw at the Olympics with the USA Olympic team, Slave and Faber pairing. That was just a shutdown pairing. How good that was. He's one of those names I would just throw out there. Is another one. What I like about this sort of make this up award is that you could kind of pick what you value as a good defenseman. Where it's, do I like someone who
Yes.
blocks shots? Do I like someone who takes up ice time? Do I like someone who just shuts teams down, eats up pucks? Do I like a Chara type, a Lidstrom? Like you just have your pick at what you like there. But I digress a bit on that. Uh, let's move on to the Jack Adams Award. Jack Adams Coach of the Year, and this one's interesting because it's always the same discussion. There's 8 names to choose from, or something crazy like that, and then you end up choosing one or two. Alex, I'll turn it over to you this time, which is your Jack Adams Coach of the Year. Who do you got this time around?
I mean, John Cooper deserves it at some point, right? He hasn't won the trophy ever, which is insane to me. But it's also hard to argue against Lindy Ruff and what he's done in Buffalo. I think I would, I mean, John Cooper getting it wouldn't just be like a lifetime achievement award. He's done a great job with Tampa this season too. I think I would give it to him and Lindy Ruff second. And then I think Dan Muse also deserves some credit for what he's done in Pittsburgh. The Penguins don't have that much of a different roster than they had last season. But he's kind of transformed how they play. They're a much faster paced team offensively. They're scoring a ton of goals. I think he doesn't have the resume to stack up against Ruff or Cooper, but he would be in my top three for sure.
I think you just listed the top three. Trevor, do you agree with that's your top three, or who's your winner? Because I feel like that's the one I had in the back of my head of these are my top three. What do you got?
I didn't have Muse there, but I realized that I should have. Yeah, the easy answer is John Cooper. I wanted to joke and say if it's whether it's too early for Torts to win it, but yeah, John Cooper. I just ship, great coach. But yeah, he runs that team like it's just such a rare breed.
No, it was interesting. It was like it's too late. Well, I guess maybe Pete DeBoer can win it now that you think about it.
Yeah,
Yes, he
hey,
goes 4-0,
playoffs.
and the Islanders make it to the Stanley Cup final. All of a sudden, you have to redo your ballots there. But it's interesting. This year, yeah, some people were joking about what can Rick Bonus maybe win it because halfway through the season he took over, and
Yes,
the Blue Jackets are all of a sudden in the playoff picture. And yeah, the way I look at this, I'm like, do I want to go with the lifetime achievement award winners, which are John Cooper, Jared Bednar, the two longest tenured coaches in the NHL, and the year where teams are firing coaches, not just at the end of the season, but even with a few games to spare, they're still firing coaches. These
yeah,
two have just been there year in and year out, and even when they're considered on the hot seat, that they're there. So they're the two that I threw out there as my okay. These are my lifetime achievement award winners. Like they are the ones I should vote for, and I all should.
yeah,
But this award, the way it works is we didn't think you were going to be good, and then you overachieve, and then you're good. This team was good, so we have to vote for you. Which I think Lindy Ruff would have been two is on my list. I want to vote for him. I'm voting for Dan Muse. Like we thought, I think it's easy to forget the beginning of the season
nice.
the Penguins, we all thought were going to be the worst team in the NHL. We thought they were going to tank for Gavin McKenna. They're going to be the worst team in the NHL. They're going to be at the bottom of the standings, and
Yeah,
they're second in the Metro. They're right up there. I think Dan Muse is interesting because I think one, the hiring should pave the way for some other teams to say we should give that longtime assistant who's young and up and coming a chance, and not just the retread who's who won in 2004 but hasn't won a Stanley Cup since. But you look at some of those names. Dan Muse, like he understands his players well. He was like, oh wait, Eric Carlson can kill penalties, and nobody knew that, but apparently, let's try it out, and it worked. He understands his team to the point where yeah, he's taking the same group and getting the most out of it. So I'd vote for him there. Let's I
yeah,
guess
nice.
moving right along, let's shift from the head coach to the GM, Jim Gregory Award winner, which we would soon change to the Jim Nill Award winner, considering
Yeah,
Jim Nill has won it 3 times in a row. I think
yeah.
this year he might not win it. I think. I'm not sure, but I think it's an open field this time. So, Trevor, I'll start with you on this one. GM of the year, who is it this time?
It's a tough one because it feels like they just kind of go with like who broke out in the playoffs and like whose work finally paid off. But so in that sense, I'm gonna say Billy G. I'm gonna say Bill Guerin. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see how it all shakes out, but I thought the Quinn Hughes trade was massive and it was a massive risk too. And that's kind of GM I'd want running my team. I want to see a guy take some risks.
an interesting pick. Alex, did you have Bill Guerin as your pick?
I don't actually. I have this one for me is pretty easy. It's Kyle Dubas. What he's done in Pittsburgh is pretty impressive. And usually I feel like when the GM of the Year award, it's always like a buildup of what a GM has done in like previous couple of years. But Kyle Dubas in the
Absolutely.
last year, he's got Anthony Mantha, Justin Brazeau, Igor Chernakov, Artur Shilovs. He traded Tristan Jarry. He's
Yeah.
done so many things in the last year that's improved that Penguins roster. And of course, I know, like we were saying before, that nobody really predicted the Penguins to be in the position that they are right now. But I think Dubas deserves plenty of credit for that. And it's not just his free agent signings or trades. He drafted Ben Kindle, and people were like, "What?" when they made that
Yeah.
pick. And he's turned into a really good player for them. Obviously, not going to be the Calder Trophy winner this year because of Schaefer, but he's been one of the better rookies in the NHL. So I think for me, it would be Kyle Dubas.
I like
Nice.
the Dubas pick a lot. And looking back, I should have given him more consideration, considering not just how good the Penguins are, but how bad the Maple Leafs have been since he left.
Yeah, that's a good
You
one
have to
too.
say like, oh wow, he really did a good job there. Looking back, considering how what the state that they are in now. But
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of it's always interesting with the GM and head coach where you give the award to a head coach when you're like maybe I should give it to the GM of that team. It's always trying to figure out who deserves the credit there. And I think a lot of people are trying to jokingly say that about Buffalo, that maybe it should be Yarmo or Kevin Adams should get the award there because uh, the job that they've done building that team. Yeah, Kyle Dubas is a good pick, but at the end of the day, I actually still want to go with the pick that I had before we recorded, and actually it's the one that Trevor had, which is I have Bill Guerin as my pick, and I think it's interesting because this is really the year that Bill Guerin, I think GM's vote on this award, he got a lot of respect among the GMs this season with not
Yes.
just the Quinn Hughes trade, which it takes a lot of guts to make that trade. And I think there's a good chance he loses Quinn Hughes at the end of this
Yeah.
contract, where he does leave. He's a rental. And there's a good chance that he leaves and he does. That's a big gamble there, but to make that trade, where other GMs, you could look at what Steve Eiserman, he didn't make that trade, or other GMs that didn't want to make that risk, but he puts that move out there, and the Wild have been a much better team since then. The all the decisions that went into Team USA, I know it's not a vote on the Olympics, but all the votes, all the moves that he made that were controversial decisions, leaving players off the roster, just all those bold moves. Then people are like, he's really betting on himself, and it ends up working out there. He got a lot of respect this season. I think now it's one of those. He's been a good GM for a while, or he's been an interesting case where some moves are questionable, but overall he's made the good moves. And this season, he really got a lot of respect and it really made a lot of good moves to put the Wild in a good spot. And you could even throw in the Kirill Kaprizov deal, which was people were wondering, is he going to get that done or what's going to happen there? And
Yeah.
then he gets that done. And I mean, maybe it is, people will look at it and say it's an overpay just because it's the highest paid contract, but that's a big move he gets there. And I think he'll win it this year. I just think a lot of GMs are going to vote for him. I'll Speaking of the Olympics, I actually want to throw out another award out there, which is let's
Ooh.
call it the best player who didn't play in the Olympics. It's almost like the who's your favorite tier two guy, but there's a lot of snubs. But this is a good award because I think you could say which player got snubbed from the Olympics and then said, I'm going to have the greatest season of my career and prove everyone wrong that I should have been on the team and look at how well they played. I have a few names that come to mind with this in mind. I know I'm just throwing this at you on the spot, so I'm going to give you some time to think here by rambling again. But Alex, I'll turn it over to you first now. And there are probably some names that come to mind now, but if you had to pick an best player not on any Olympic team this season, what do you got?
For me, it would be Jason Robertson. You could argue Evan Bouchard too. I think Canada could have used another puck moving defenseman back there for sure. But for me, it's Jason Robertson. I mean, I guess in the end, it didn't matter because Team USA won gold medal. So there's that. But Robertson is on pace for what I think 45 goals and like 95, 100 points somewhere around there too. I think if you put him on that Team USA roster, I don't think it would have made it would have made a difference. Like they would have probably, I guess they would have still won the gold medal. But um, I think you could argue Adam Fox as well, but he did get injured, so he probably wouldn't have been on the team to begin with or in the end. But Jason Robertson for me, he was the best player that didn't play in the Olympics. I'm trying to think of like other countries too. Sweden, I didn't really think they had too many snubs. I think Jason Robertson and Evan Bouchard are probably the two that stand out for me the most.
I think with Sweden, it's not a snub as much as Leo Carlson got hurt. But
Yeah,
but that's not fair. I'm not gonna count that as a vote there. Trevor, who do you got?
I think his internet went out
I think he's
again.
frozen. So I'll just,
Yeah.
I guess I'll make my pick for this one again. What's his name? Where was I? Oh yeah. So I'll just rattle off a few names that have come to mind. Obviously you've got Jason Robertson, Wyatt Johnston, Canada. He didn't make it. He's one of those people that have
He's back.
he's back. Trevor, you
Back.
are back. But
Sorry, guys.
I'm gonna rattle off some of my names that I have, which are Wyatt Johnston, Lane Hudson didn't make it. There's another one. Talking about Norris caliber defenseman, Evan Bouchard.
Yeah.
I think I think this award really. I just kind of made this up just so I can mention Cole Caulfield, who might win the Rocket. I think he's what is he closing in on 50 goals on the season. So yeah, this award, I think that's the one where this is funny. Be with the Olympics where when the game gold medal game went to overtime, I was like, oh, if only we had Cole Caulfield, the best overtime 3-on-3 goal scorer in the NHL on our side. Then the U.S. wins wins anyway with the 3-on-3 overtime winning goal. But Cole Caulfield is having one of those remarkable seasons. He gets not snubbed from the Olympics as much as it was. We don't see a fit for him on the team. He's not a big physical player. He is really a pure goal scorer, but he's been the best goal scorer. I think he's been on a tear since the Olympics. So he's one of those players that kind of saw it and he's like, okay, I took that personally, and I'm going to put together a career best season. Trevor, we mentioned all those names. Who do you have?
Yeah. Okay. So best guy snubbed from the Olympics. I'm with Alex, Jason Robertson. Best guy not at the Olympics, Nikita Kucherov.
Oh, true.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's a good
Should
one.
realize
Good catch.
we forgot a whole country here. I'm like, right.
Yeah.
So that was like, that's yeah. There's a whole country full of elite talent that didn't make it.
Yeah.
Some not their fault, but yeah, I forgot. Yeah, Kucherov wins this award. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah,
who made this
that's
award
an
up?
easy
Like,
one if Kucherov.
yeah, that's like, yeah, it's actually, yeah, he's going to be one of the Hart Trophy candidates, which reminds me. All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.